led, along with other team members, of course, has led to formulations of ICDS MTM nutrition norms. Not only that, even for the police academy and for army personnel also, all this data that has been generated in this department under the leadership of the public health division heads and Dr. Lakshmaya has really contributed a lot to policy. And coming to Dr. Bharati, she is working on two very important projects. One is how early nutrition can impact chronic diseases in adult life. We got important clues there. And also another project Star Trial, which has the ability to change the national program on iron and folic acid prophylaxis. So that way these people have contributed immensely and deserve these orations. And Dr. Dinesh Kumar, all of you know very well. Again, he is the one who contributed significantly in preclinical toxicology study with respect to genetically modified organisms and vaccines. There are several approvals of GMO foods and vaccines which were approved by the Food Safety Standard Authority of India, then with the Drug Control General of India. So most of the regulatory bodies, the data that they approved were generated here at NIN under the leadership of Dr. Dinesh Kumar. So hearty congratulations to all three of them from my side, and all the best. So Dr. Sylvia will brief you further.
We now move on to the first award, that is the 33rd Dr. Srikantaiah Memorial Award. And to tell us about the award, I invite Dr. A.N. Radha, Vice President, NSI. Madam, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Good evening. Let us be together, though far away, to enjoy pleasant, enlightening moments ahead. And congratulations to the President for her IUNS venture. At the outset, much delighted I am and joining our Honorable President, Dr. Hemalata, in extending welcome and greetings. I would like to place on record all appreciations to the organizing core team, especially for keeping up the legacy and objective of NSI in sync with NIN. Their efforts are shining through the Oration Award event, more so in selection and presentation of appropriate topics today and identification of excellent, authentic speakers. Congratulations to all the award recipients, Dr. Lakshmaya, Dr. Bharati Kulkarni, and Dinesh Kumar. Further, I am fortunate to get the wonderful opportunity to offer tribute with all respects and gratitude to late Dr. S.G. Srikantaiah. I was lucky when I was student. I met him and interacted with him. We used to always wonder, he is an ever brilliant, sparkling icon and a scintillating idol of NIN NSI. Simply, we used to admire him. And hence, therefore, it is next to impossible to cover all the aspects of his noble vision, mission, and incredible contributions spread over to almost 40 years in 4 minutes. However, considering the begin with that memorial lecture 89 by NSI in honor of late Dr. S.G. Srikantaiah, one of the founder members of the society. About him, it's a pleasant to know, to convey to the students and other participants. He was born in 1926 in an illustrious family in Mysore. After his brilliant undergraduate career in Mysore Medical College, he joined the National Institute of Nutrition, then known as the Nutrition Research Laboratories, Kunur, in 1951. He served the institute with a rare distinction and dedication for more than 3 decades, till his voluntary retirement in 1980. From 1974 to 1980, he was the director of NIN. He continued to be active active in research and teaching, was associated with the University of Mysore and served as a temporary advisor to WHO. Dr. Srikandiya was an internationally renowned nutrition scientist with outstanding contributions in clinical nutrition. He was versatile, knowledgeable, and well-informed, not only in clinical nutrition, but also in nutritional biochemistry and public health nutrition. His studies on the role of ferritin in the pathogenesis of nutritional edema have attracted considerable attention. His pioneering research contributions on protein energy malnutrition, vitamin A deficiency, nutritional anemias, pellagra, and fluorosis have earned him academic recognition. He led the studies on the prevention and control of vitamin A deficiency in the country and was the man behind the National Vitamin A Prophylaxis Program. He was a member of the editorial board of the Indian Journal of Medical Research. Dr. Srikandiya has several publications to his credit, including chapters in books. He strengthened the Nutrition Foundation of India and played a leading role in the formulation and implementation of many of its research projects. A man of simple habits and sterling qualities, upright, sincere, and devoted to scientific pursuits and loyal to the committed cause, Srikandiya was a friend, philosopher, and guide to many junior colleagues. Listening to his biodata, I am sure and certain everyone is inspired to carry out impactful R&D and extension activities. Though he is not with us, the vibrations and inspiration and also message given to us is loud and clear. Wealth of nutrition, knowledge to be transformed to the health of community at large. That is what he used to always say. And today's oration itself is in line with that. NSI is so proud to announce that the 33rd Dr. Srikandiya Memorial Lecture will be delivered by Dr. Avula Lakshmaya, who is scientist and well-known personality in the nutrition field. The topic chosen is also very appropriate. Time trends in triple burden of malnutrition in India, pilot intervention models for low and middle income countries. Thank you one and all for listening to me. I thank you once again. Finish. Hello. Could you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
ఇది బాగాలేదు తీసేయండి
తీసేయండి
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for telling us about the award. I now request Dr. Janaki Srinath, EC member, to introduce the recipient.
A pleasant evening to all the dignitaries, senior faculty, scientists, members of Nutrition Society of India. Today, I am really humbled to introduce the orator for the 33rd Dr. Srikandiya Memorial Award. Sri Dr. Avula Lakshmaya Garu. He has begun his journey in public health nutrition 30 years ago as scientist at National Institute of Nutrition. Currently, he is serving as director grade scientist and head division of public health nutrition. A proud son of Telangana state, Dr. Lakshmaya completed his bachelor's in medicine and surgery from the Kakatiya Medical College, Warangal in 1987. He did his diploma in public health in 1992 from Osmania University. Masters in public health from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute in 2003. He also has done masters in business administration in 2008 and followed by a doctoral thesis work in public health nutrition in 2014 from NTR University of Health Sciences, Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. He has carried out more than 50 large-scale epidemiological studies, translational research cum impact evaluations, and randomized clinical trials in the field of nutrition and health. He has also conducted many training and capacity building programs for health and nutrition functionaries of several states in India. He has developed risk reduction models for undernutrition, micronutrient malnutrition, obesity, and other non-communicable diseases, and these pilot models are ready for scale-up. He has published more than 150 papers in national and international peer-reviewed journals, important ones like the Lancet, Nature, Obesity Research, British Medical Journal, British Journal of Nutrition, Public Health Nutrition, Maternal and Child Nutrition, and of course, several publications in Indian Journal of Medical Research. He has also contributed more than 10 book chapters in several popular health and nutrition books. He is an enlisted panel member, expert public health nutritionist with several central and state ministries like Health and Family Welfare, Women and Child Development, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Indian Council of Medical Research, Ministry of Human Resource Development, and with Government of India. His works include assessments of nutritional status in various parts of India through National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, tribal health and nutrition, non-communicable diseases, especially hypertension and obesity, etc. He is the member of various committees overlooking public health nutrition policies in India, like development of recommended dietary allowances, estimated average requirement, dietary guidelines for various conditions, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, and midday meal program, fortification of foods, nutrition claims, etc. He is instrumental in fixing of nutrition norms for various supplementary nutrition programs like Integrated Child Development Scheme, Midday Meal Program, National Food Security Act 2013, Arogya Lakshmi Meal Program for pregnant and lactating mothers in Telangana and Karnataka state, and also special diet therapy allowance and treatment for HIV and tuberculosis patients. He's also, all of us are very familiar for his role as National Secretary for Nutrition Society of India. Apart from this, he has received several awards and honors. To say a few, International Union of Nutritional Sciences, IUNS, USA Training Fellowship at Ghana in the African Nutrition Epidemiology Conference, IUNS Training Fellowship Award at Thailand, Asian Nutrition Congress, Kraft International Training and Travel Grants Award to attend 10th Asian Congress of Nutrition in Taipei, Taiwan, International Health Professional of the Year 2010 by Cambridge University, UK, Postdoctoral Training Award from Bristol University and London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, UK in 2012, Honorary Senior Research Fellowship in the Faculty of Medicine, Imperial College London, UK 2020-2022. Dr. Lakshmaya's vast experience and technical expertise is a role model for many young and upcoming researchers. It is only apt for a person of his caliber to deliver this oration in memory of a scientist of the stature of Dr. Srikantaya.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the presentation of the award and citation. President Hemlata ma'am will do the honors.
Okay, no? First day.
Yeah.
You have to announce it little loudly. People are not aware.
Closer.
Come.
Now have the presentation of the award. given by the President, Hemlata ma'am, to Dr. Lakshmaya, Scientist G and Head of Division of Public Health Nutrition at ICMR and I.
Thank you.
Very well, and
The citation.
I was not, they are not able to see. Unmute பண்ணாச்சு. சரி, அதான் பேர்.
We will now have the oration lecture, Time Trends in Triple Burden of Malnutrition in India, Pilot Intervention Models for Low and Middle Income Countries. So,
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, let him talk.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So, thank you very much for giving this award, very honoring this award, very prestigious award. I never dreamed in my life I will get this kind of award. So, it is a very surprise. It is a very surprising for me because I have to profusely thank all the committee members by considering my name for this award. Especially, I thank you, NSI President, and she herself suggested my name and others are approved. So I really thank you very much. So,
Share the screen.
yeah, please share the screen.
ఏం చేస్తున్నావు?
Yes.
ఇదా?
అదే ఇక్కడ షేర్ వచ్చేస్తాను.
This is the one.
Okay. Is it visible, my slides? Anyone, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Visible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I already, Dr. Professor Radha, she already said about about Dr. H.G. Srikanteya, and he is a very famous and renowned scientist in NIN, and he was the director during 1974-80. But unfortunately, I did not met him because I joined after even during 1992. So I missed his company and his suggestions, but however, most of the colleagues used to tell every day one or the other person about Dr. Srikanteya. He's a very good administrator, as well as he's a very good researcher. So before I start my oration, so I please let me thank first my parents. So my parents, wife and daughters and son-in-law, without their cooperation, I would not have worked here. And especially my mother and father. My father is no more now, but always his blessings will be there on us. And my mother and both are illiterates. But even though they are illiterate, they make me to send the schools. And because I am from a very small village, and it is around just 400 to 500 population village, and but there is no school in my village at that time. Now it is there, but that time only I am the second candidate to be educated in that village.
And the first one to get MBBS. Yeah.
First one to be, but the first candidate is stopped his study after 4th class only. So I only continued the studies, and but a lot of pressure was there, upper caste people, but I cannot say that, but those Reddy, Dora and all those things. So they always discouraged my mother, and but she is very stubborn to whatever you say, we will continue my children's education. So that is her motivation. So we always remember her that motivation. So thank you, Amma. So my especially because I have to tell about my wife also, because I married very early, even during MBBS. So she always supported, and she was very young that time, and she's only completed 10th standard. So she also continued her studies, and she did her BAMS, and now she is working as a medical officer in the state government. And so that is, these are her contribution is very large to work here, a very sufficiently or confidently here. Thank you very much. And also, again, I profusely thank all the directors for their full guidance, cooperation, support in carry out of my entire research career here, and especially Dr. Vinodini Reddy. During her time only I was appointed. And next, Dr. Mohan Ram and Dr. Kamala Krishnaswamy, Dr. B. Sivakumar and Dr. Hemalata are present. And also in charge directors during my time, Kalpakam Palasa and Lungwa. So I also profusely thank all of them. And all the DGs of ICMR for granting ICMR funds for several of my projects. More than 20 projects I have done from ICMR and other funding projects. So coming to the subject, so we are facing triple burden of malnutrition. So malnutrition, you are all aware of that, especially for the students. I'm just saying that malnutrition is one of the most important public health problem. It arises either from a deficiency or excess or imbalance of single or many nutrients in the body. So the major problem is protein energy malnutrition, and the clinical forms of undernutrition was very prevalent when I was joined three decades back, but not. But now we are very hardly find this kind of cases. But subclinical forms of undernutrition is prevalent very heavily because the India itself contributing most 1/3 of the undernourished children, subclinically undernourished children to the global burden, and low birth weight is a persistent problem. You are all agree that, and chronic energy deficiency, especially among pregnant and lactating women and even reproductive age group women, is very high compared to men. And second problem is micronutrient deficiencies. We are facing several micronutrient deficiencies like vitamin A. Even though vitamin A is a little reduced or come down, but iron deficiency anemia is still persistent, very high in all the age groups, even including men. And iron deficiency disorders also a big problem 3 decades back, but thanks to universal iodization, the problem is coming down to at low levels of public health significance. And then zinc deficiency disorder, then B vitamins, many B vitamins. And third one is diet-related chronic non-communicable diseases, and the NCDs, several battery of diseases are there. So then this triple burden of diseases, who are vulnerable for most of this malnutrition, especially infants and young children, adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women, and elderly population, socioeconomically deprived groups, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and urban slum dwellers. And if you see the global burden of nutrition, you can see 2 billion people are suffering from one or the other micronutrient deficiencies. 155 million children are stunted. So around 47 million children itself contributed by India. And these are the, all the burden of these problems. And even if you review in India, so these are the challenges in India. 46 million children are suffering from stunting, and 72 million people are suffering from diabetes, and 166 people are suffering from either overweight and obesity, and 447 million people are suffering from anemia, especially reproductive age groups. So therefore, the continuous monitoring of nutrition status and health is very, very essential to control these problems. And I also, thanks to National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, because several studies carried out through National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, and the Indian Council of Medical Research established this NNMA in 1972 in 10 states, and it was expanded another 6 states in 2012. And the green one is 10 states. First they have started, and the last 6 are afterwards started. So you are all aware of that. These are the major objectives of NNMP. Then continuous basis, and diet and nutrition sets of communities usually we used to conduct periodical surveys, and also periodically evaluate ongoing existing national nutrition programs, so to give suggestions for mid-course corrections if any gaps are there. So these are the major sampling frame. We used to use this sampling frame for annual surveys. And repeat surveys, we used to use different methodology for rural surveys and tribal surveys. So that we are now still managing the village cohorts, because it is not a individual based surveys, it is a village surveys. And I'm not going to detail because of time. So because in rural and even travel areas, we used to collect, select 120 villages, and out of 120 villages, 90 villages are new and 30 villages are old. So the first, if you discuss about the first burden of malnutrition, that is undernutrition, this is the results, the findings of the national surveys, NNMB. So the time trends, you can see there is a significant reduction in all the three indicators of undernutrition, especially among under 5-year children or 1 to 5 year children. So, and still, even though significant reduction is there, but compared to other countries, it is a significant big problem is there. And if you see the ethnic and the tribal rural variation also, it is very significant. And the tribal population is 49 to 27 and 51 to 29, and wasting is 22 to 6. And the recent NFHS surveys also showed that it is around not less than 1/3 of our people, our children are suffering with stunting and underweight and other forms of nutrition. But there is a variation, regional variation, and state to state, a significant variation. So Puducherry is the lowest one, and Meghalaya is the highest stunting. And Meghalaya is a different thing because of even shortness also, it may be there. And if you see this slide, even you can see at birth, the children are not that prevalent, the undernutrition, not that much, but by reaching 1 year, the undernutrition is going up. It is doubling almost 20% to 40%. So we are failing at in this particular 1 year period, but with improper infant and young child feeding practices, we have to focus on that. And in that case, only this 1,000 days has come, and we have to focus 1,000 days because most of the development is occur even before conception. And even 1,000 days, we have also conducted an international conference on before and after 1,000 days. So the care is required to take care of this. And this paper was also published in one of the Lancet journals by mapping of various child stunting, wasting, underweight in the states. So it is given in the state-wise variations and the determinants, and even Dr. Hemalata is also one of the author in this. So in the stunting declined among the under 5-year children, even NFHS 4 and 5, and even CNN is also shown, but still the problem is very significant. And this undernutrition or thinness is a big problem among even adolescents, and especially even both men and girls and boys. And this paper also recently we published, because what is the actual contribution of this nutrition or anthropometric failure. And so one of the reason is the important is the itself the inadequate dietary intake is one of the reason, and it is the details are given in the paper. I'm not going all these details. So here, especially the undernutrition among adults, you can see the adults, even though it is reducing, still it is 1/3 of adults are suffering from CED, chronic energy deficiency in India. So this paper also published in Lancet, because it was a multi-author paper, but major contribution also given by NNMB data in the for Indian share. So I am also one of the writing author. So in this paper, and it is detailed given from 1975 to 2016. How body mass index is changed, and underweight and overweight and obesity in various countries and various regions. So details are given, and this is the one BMI in girls and BMI in boys. So you can see, but compared to other countries, India, the BMI is not much, but still overweight obesity is there. So if we are going to second burden of malnutrition, the micronutrient deficiencies, so as you are all aware, agree that the fetal and child growth is affected, and cognitive development is affected, and resistance to infection is also come down, and the public health implications of micronutrient deficiencies are potentially huge and significant when it comes to designing strategies for the prevention and control of these diseases. So where these micronutrient deficiencies happen regularly are very frequently in the resource poor population groups, and food insecure and vulnerable households in developing countries. So we all are aware that what are the key risk factors. One of them is poverty, lack of access to variety of foods, lack of knowledge of appropriate dietary practices, and high incidence of infections and infestations. So FAO WHO International Conference on Nutrition World Declaration, they said that the improvement in dietary intakes through increased production, preservation, marketing of micronutrient-rich foods, and nutrition education also. We are very poor in nutrition education and food fortification also one of the strategy, and supplementation of foods, and global public health and disease control measures also required. So these are the battery of micronutrient deficiencies, especially iron deficiency anemia, folic acid deficiency, vitamin A deficiency, iodine deficiency, and zinc deficiency. And iron deficiency, Dr. Bharati also will talk about that. So I'm will not be here. These are the reasons, causes. We are all aware of that. This is this was carried out in 2003 and 6. So the NNMB micronutrient survey, and at that time the problem is still very high. And in almost all physiological age groups, the prevalence is not less than 60 to 70%. So the reasons also we analyzed, because even though IFA tablet program is there, the compliance is very less. About the tablet distribution also, people may not be knowing, and the side effects and other things, the coverage is very less. And the time trends, if you see, it is very, very high. Even that's why it is a very persistent problem. So even country-wise, several countries and neighboring countries also, the prevalence was there. It is a little old, but the India is almost in severe conditions. And if you see the recent even NFHS studies also, the prevalence is not less than 50%. So the reasons also, it was from NFHS 4 study, the reasons also they analyzed, because lot of the thing, complaints problem, and another thing is the side effects, and other thing, these all red spots with the different states is some defective things. So if you see the vitamin A deficiency, this was also carried out by NNMB through NNMB surveys, and the without spot prevalence is more than some of the states is more than 1.2, 1.4, 1.3, but the public health significance is if it is more than 0.1, 0.5%, we can take as a public health significant. So there is a pattern, community, and occupation, and family size, and female literacy is significantly associated with low female education. So if you go to another problem, prevalence of subclinical VAD, this is very huge, because it was not less than 60% of children are suffering from subclinical vitamin A. So these are associated factor, and we could analyze the reasons why it is, because one of the reason is that the dietary source itself is very less, and the second one is the coverage of the first and second dose is very, very less. And where the coverage is less, and there is very high prevalence of this serum retinol levels. So iodine deficiency here also, the neighboring countries, the comparison is given, but it's all now mild to moderate iodine deficiencies. So this paper is published in micronutrient prevalence and determinants of micronutrient deficiency based on this NNMB data. So this is also same procedure. So another thing is now it is improved the salt iodization consumption and other things, but this was 10 years back. It is the iodized salt consumption, adequate iodine salt is very less, and this is a trends in goiter of the children. And we have also another study we have conducted with the WHO funded study to know that what is the impact of this universal iodization. So if you see the 6 regions of the country, there is a substantial or significant improvement in reduction of goiter prevalence or total goiter prevalence, and except eastern regions, some eastern regions, the reduction is not at expected levels. So these are some of the iodine deficiency, and we have seen the socio-demographic pattern, and all the vitamin A, and both all these things are followed the socio-demographic pattern. And another paper also published on this in Lancet and other groups. So second, third, another problem is vitamin B12 deficiency. Nowadays, people are talking about B12 deficiency because on an average, almost 25% of people are suffering from vitamin B12 deficiency. And now, and previously, we thought of anemia is only just because of majorly iron deficiency, but now the contribution of B12 for iron burden also almost 20 to 25% in some of the reports, and we have carried out this study recently, and we have also submitted a draft report to the government, and we are also, these are all partner institutes. And with this study findings, now probably the government may also include B12 fortification along with the IFA tablet. So that is, these are the deferral pill. And so if you see what are the determinants, what are the reasons for all this undernutrition and micronutrient deficiency, the major is the food intake and the inadequate food intake, and other battery of factors are affecting on food intake. I'm not going to detail all these things. We are all aware of these factors. So here the important is that's what the food intake, and if you see the based on NNMB studies, especially 1 to 3 years, and the 1 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, the vitamin A intake, riboflavin intake, and the niacin. So most of the nutrients are inadequate. The consumption itself is inadequate. Over a period of time, even the consumption is reducing, and even the sedentary men and sedentary women also given. But sedentary men and women little better compared to children. And this also we analyzed that because it is not because of just inadequately availability of food, but is only the mother and the parents, they don't know what is the quantity and quality is given to the children. That's what that paper also published in maternal and child health journal. So the average rural consumption of nutrients compared to RDA, so it is over a period of time, it is reducing even calcium and iron. And the strategies suggested for improvement, all the short-term strategies, medium and long-term, and especially long-term strengthening of health and nutrition component and environmental sanitation, personal hygiene, dietary diversification, promotion of home garden, of course, biofortification and genetically modified foods like golden rice and so many things, or potato. So improvement in literacy, even nutrition literacy is also very important. So we know the problems, but how to decrease or how to control or prevent these problems, and we have development of food and nutrient supplementation programs. The government of India is already started several decades back, and fortification of nutrients also in this, and especially we helped some of the fixing of nutrition norms for especially MDM and ICDS, and based on NNMB data, we computed that what is the deficiency level in this 4 to 6 years, especially for school children. And so we, in that fixing nutrition norms, our primary aim is to fill this gap. So compared to RDA and their existing intake, as well as what to be, how much to be taken. And so based on this, we have framed this nutrition norms. The government of India now adopting these norms still, but it may be probably they are going to revise this based on your recently we have also NN also published EAR estimated average requirement, and based on even NFS and the National Food Security Authority also given the assignment of revise these norms based on the revised guidelines and recommendations. So this paper, this is another one is midday meal, and this paper also we evaluated some of the programs, MDM program, and recently also we have evaluated MDM programs in 21 states, and so I'm not giving all the results, but this is also one of the findings that those who are not coming with the breakfast, that is a significant step. Some of the states is very significant. The children are not coming with breakfast, and now government is constituted a committee. So whether we can also recommend the breakfast, free serving of breakfast in all the schools. but I was one of the, I was the chairperson for that national committee, but we have submitted the proposal, but the government is not the secretaries. The group is not agreed now, but maybe future it may come up. So another thing, another program is very world biggest program is ICDS Anganwadi Center. And here also, this also we developed nutrition norms based on the gaps, existing gaps. So the child consumption, we have considered current consumption and the requirement and the gap. So this is 500 and 500 for all these children, and especially severely malnourished, 800 fixed. This is the protein, and this also may be going to be now revised. And so in order to so provide these calories and protein, and we have also developed Balamrutam and THR, the take-home ration product based on the state food models. Our state, by considering their food habits and cultural acceptance, and we have devised this Balamrutam, but it was a well accepted, and this is also published in ICMR book. That is providing nutrition to children through Balamrutam. And here this was distributed to mothers for 1 month. It is 2.5 kg packet, and the mother is instructed to give at least 80 to 100 grams every day for these children. And we are happy that this third party evaluation also done, and this was published in PLAS, and the coverage and the acceptance of this Balamrutam is very good. And I'm not going all these results, but this is paper you can, if you have time, you can read. That is another one. So some second one is, this is an intervention project. It is a pilot project we developed, and this is improving health and nutrition rates of vulnerable segment population by implementing multi-component health and nutrition education intervention as a sustainable model of intervention. And this we have implemented this project in almost 15 districts in 5 states, and it was successfully implemented, and this some of the education material distributed, and this project was continued intervention 18 months, and we have developed 6 teams. Every 2 months, each team to be introduced for selected households, and this every visit also previous theme to be reviewed and again reinforced. And so this is the project, and different people, and this is just I'm showing 1 or 2 results. There is a significant reduction over a end line to baseline, especially in stunting and wasting, underweight and wasting, but stunting not much improvement, and but very significant improvement in the hemoglobin levels. So you can see the prevalence of anemia is very significantly reduced in all the 18 months of this education intervention, and strengthening of existing programs and coverage we have improved, and knowledge also we have improved, and definitely the practices might be improved, and then the improvement, the significant reduction of anemia also we observed. So if you going to the third body, non-communicable diseases. So as you all aware that non-communicable diseases are a big problem in epidemic increase, and especially increasing over a period of time from 1990 to 20, almost 30 years. So, and recently this paper also published in Lancet, and you can see the malnutrition is not changing, it is highest, and some of the disease morbidities are increasing, some are decreasing, especially non-communicable. Almost all non-communicable indicators are increasing. So this paper is also published nation with nation, variations in epidemiological, and Dr. Madam also is one of the author in this paper. It is published in Lancet. So the determinants, if you see several, we know all these determinants and the common risk factors, intermediate risk factors, and if you unable to control, it is end up as a end diseases, and the reasons could be main 3 reasons: physical inactivity and unhealthy diets and smoking. These are the roots of these non-communicable diseases, and those are the bad fruits you can get if you don't follow these things. So these are a lifestyle transition, because we are facing 3 levels of lifestyle transition. One is epidemiological transition is also existing, and nutrition transition, demographic transition, and lifestyle transition. So another important issue is this evidence for the fetal and infant origins of adult chronic disease. This is another concept. The hypothesis, this was introduced by Dr. David Barker, is a UK nutrition scientist, but they followed the study and say that so those children are intraeternally insulted with nutrition, and those children luckily born and survived, the early onset of non-communicable diseases is very high. And that we are, of course, we are visualizing, and we are now there is a evidence, because several people are dying with heart attack and other things, even their 20s and 30s. So that is also because in India, the intrauterine growth retardation very high, and low birth weight is also very high. If this hypothesis is coming to be true, so the burden is very high in India. So regardless of who the father of your disease is, surely the mother is improper diet, because even the Lancet, the global Lancet study also says that out of all morbidities, 65% is just because of unhealthy diet or improper diet or imbalanced diet is the reason. And if you see, out of 9 risk factors, 6 risk factors are from diet alone. So that another big problem is this global epidemic of obesity, and there is several cutoff points are there. Asian Indians is a separate cutoff point, because Asian Indians are highly prone to the deposition of fat is very high in the body. The fat itself is the risk factor, and if you see the NNME studies, it is a step ladder increasing the overweight, obesity, even tribal population, and especially even rural population, and also urban population. These some of the studies, even the in-depth studies also shown the same thing by Dr. Mohan and their group. And this we have also done total body fat percentage with the BIA, using BIA, and you can see the total body fat percent is very, very high. And those who are more than 25% among men, those who are more than 30% among women is given in this. And almost the women are champions in this. They have more fat in this, men and women. And another thing, overweight, obesity in different, even general obesity, central obesity, abdominal obesity, very, very high, even in rural population, and even more than 50%, and even urban population, more than 70-80% people are suffering from this. So here, this trends in adult body mass index, and this Lancet paper also we published. So here you can see there is a lot of change in the obesity and the improvement in the BMI levels. You can see over a period of time from 1980 to 2014, there is a huge improvement in the BMI percentage. And the recent CNNS study also showed that the overweight obesity is very high among adolescent children. And this is also a worrisome finding. And if you see the childhood obesity is also another big challenge. And we have carried out several studies among the children, adolescent obesity. So I myself studied some 4 studies are there. So whichever study, these are different states carried out, different investigators. But overall, the prevalence of overweight obesity is not less than 10% to 30%. People are suffering from various socioeconomic, so different socioeconomic people suffering from different. So this is also time trends of childhood obesity. Here it was done in NION, this study. And this this was published in long back, but it is very highly cited. Almost some 400 citations are there. This is a basic paper in that during that period. So the major reasons for this is the children are living within the obesogenic environment, and there is no physical activity. I need not explain this. You can understand what is going on in the schools and other things. And we have also conducted some studies of what are the enabling environment in the schools and the play garden and other things. But unfortunately, only 35% of schools in Hyderabad and around, and there is no gardens and other things, and we have to say this is, even though school gardens are there, but people are not encouraged to go physical activity. And if the children are there, this crow will not play here. So these are the some problems are there, and this is also I like. This was also published, and this is important. We have done principal component analysis, and what is the contribution of food alone for the obesity? Is 53% is food alone contributing for overweight obesity. So this is, and we have also, and another important thing I have to tell here, and we have conducted a sudden investigation or sudden inquiry in the schools, the tiffin boxes, and almost 34% of tiffin boxes contain only chips and junk food. And we asked to interview the mother also. Some of the mother, they said that both are working, we are very busy, we cannot prepare in the 7 o'clock. So those are the some constraints. So that's why we have given, the mother is a multitasker, and she is unable to do these are the things. And why should we bother about this overweight obesity during childhood? Because some studies say that 77% of this overweight obesity is likely to be continued in the adulthood. So the adulthood, if they suffer overweight obesity, the consequences are very severe, and most of the things. And so this paper also published the epidemiological burden of obesity, worldwide epidemic requiring urgent action. So here is the question, and this message also I like very much, because we as parents like to give our children many things. For obesity is not be one of them. So because we are give awards like chocolate, ice cream. If you read the chapter, I will give those kind of should not be there. So that's what. These are the consequences of overweight obesity. You are all aware of this, a battery of consequences. But only message is don't give shelter under your belly. And why should we worry about BMI? You can see BMI is a double-edged sword, and it is a J-shaped curve. Even less than BMI also there is a high risk of mortality, and more than also high risk of mortality. So yeah, we have to maintain. Yeah. So these are all associated factor, and the associated factor for diabetes, you can see these are because I need not explain all this. You can understand. Waist circumference, WHR, BMI, and total body fat percent is highly correlated for diabetes. And another, this is also very important to slide because the central obesity, insulin resistance is South Indian Asian susceptibility. So the predisposition of genetic abnormality is very high in Asian Indians. So you can see in the next thing, the waist hip ratio versus European and South Asian, and South Asian is very straight increase is there compared to European. So that this is also that's why we have a bad genes. So this also I got it is a very important message. So eat for your DNA, because a lot of epigenetic changes will occur if you have unhealthy diet. And another, this is very important message. The Asian Indian genes are loaded guns. Okay, so the trigger is your bad lifestyle. So if you have a bad lifestyle, okay, it is done. So this is also very important message I would like to give. And again, if you go to the diabetes, and we are second in the world diabetes problem, and another within some, then the epidemiologist assuming that another 5 or 6 years we will even beat the China. So our number is increasing. Now it is currently 75 million. So that this is also very worrisome thing, because recent surveys even among adolescents also a lot of pre-diabetes and diabetes was observed in especially in young children. And this is rural survey, the men is 8% and women are 7%, but still it is very high. And even this urban survey shows that around 18%, but in some of the states is very high, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. So that the prevalence is very high, even men and women is high. So this ICMR diabetes studies, India have also shown same thing, and rural and urban in several states. And this worldwide trends diabetes, this was also published in Lancet, and our NAN people are, several people are authors, my colleagues also there in this, and this is also very improving. You can see the diabetes is increasing over a period of time every country, not only in one country, but in some countries it is very high, some countries is very little low. Even now, this Dr. Mohan slides, he also shown that over a period of time, the pace of increase is very, very high among poorest of poor people. This slide you can see. So it is 135% in poorest of, because we thought that the poorest people, because more physical active and this may not happen. But nowadays, the social gradient is not following even hypertension and diabetes. So this is coming to the another problem, hypertension, you can see. So this is also a very big problem, this rural area. Around 1/4 of people are suffering from hypertension in rural area, and men and women are almost equal. And this was also published in ICMR journals and the socioeconomic, what are the determinants and what are the causative factors. And you can see this is the age standardized prevalence is very high in this. This is a recent urban study also revealing that the hypertension is very high among even urban population. So that is 37 or 38% people are suffering from hypertension in urban areas, and women are around 29%. But some of the states is very alarming. The Kerala, Assam, and some even Orissa and these states. But Assam, surprisingly, why is Assam? But the diet survey shows that the highest salt intake is there. So that is one of the reasons for a high intake. Even ICMR India study has also shown same, more or less same results. So this hypertension paper also published in Lancet, and so here the saying that you can see the change. So over a period of time, the change is very high, and this is also over a period of time increasing. You can see the undiagnosed hypertension is very high, undiagnosed, because they know that they don't know until unless if you say okay, they notice, because it is a silent killer. Hypertension is a silent killer, and so this is that's why. So everybody above 10 years, everybody should be screened for hypertension. That should be the program in the government or in everywhere. And we have analyzed this is the total fat, urban, rural. But of course, rural area, the fat intake is not much alarming, but urban area, the fat intake is very high. And over a period of time, the fat is increasing. You can see intake, the time trends of fat intake, especially visible fat, the added oils is increasing the consumption levels. And we have also analyzed this recent urban data. What is the contribution of fat through which recipe, which food we are getting? So you can see the cereals with the non-vegetarian foods is the maximum contribution is coming from this. So this poor diet can affect multiple generations, says expert. I am also one of the experts in that. Lifestyle modification is very important for this NCDs. The three things are very important. Diet is very healthy diet. Then physical activity we have to improve, and behavior therapy is very, very important. Sometimes we know the things because everybody knows that walking is good, but how many people will do? Even I myself regularly cannot walk. So the practice is very, very important. So this WHO global targets also they fixed. These are the targets, and out of 210 countries, so 180 countries already signed for this. Even one of the India is also one of the signatories. So we are monitoring. Even Dr. Prashant Mathur is also following the studies, and these are the things. And healthy diet, I need not explain. These are the 4 things are there. But healthy diet is 4 groups we consume, but only in each group only rice also we cannot consume. We have to interchange within the group also. Then only the dietary diversification will occur. Okay, so this is also very important one slide, because the recommended is this much. The calories coming from carbohydrate, fat, and protein also very important. But the presently we are getting calories is almost, even NNMB data is showing that 68 to 70% is coming from carbohydrates only. So this should be changed. So here what we say, the millets are very good for health, but unfortunately, the consumption of millet is reducing significantly over a period of time. The millet is because we give rank to the foods, prestige food and poor food. So the millet is given for a poor man food. So that is one of the reasons everybody, poor people imitate that we are rich. So that is the thing. So that they almost forgotten to eat millets. Now rich man people, now they started eating now. So this is also this my plate. We from NIN even thanks to Dr. Yamalata, she herself she designed this, and of course everybody reviewed, that is okay. But this is also very important message. If your plate should be 50% fruits and vegetables, 1/4 should be protein and 1/4 should be cereals, then only you will get the healthy diet. And this is also very impressive slide, because your plate, half of the plate should be fruits and vegetables, and then 1/4 is protein and starch. So this what India eats also we have published recently. So Dr. Hemalata she is the very lead writer in this. So here this book also shows that the result shows that most of the different regions of the country, you can see, especially Northeast, the cereals and millets consumption is very high. More than 60-70% people are eating the total portion. And this is food groups consumption in the upper and lower total of the per capita income in urban India. This also shows that more or less same thing, the cereal consumption is very. So this slide also very important. You do not have to eat less. You just have to eat right food. So several people think that even weight reduction, they fast for 1 month. Then again they restart and eat and they get the same weight again. So that is not should be the aim. So this is temptations also very important, because we have healthy food, we have unhealthy food. Sometimes we are attracted towards unhealthy food. So this we have to see. So the healthy food, but this kind of heart-friendly foods we have to eat, and functional foods, vitamin, mineral, antioxidant, phytochemicals. So these are very rich fruits. The fruits and vegetables are very rich minerals and vitamins. I need not explain this August gathering. We are all aware of that. And another important I want to emphasize is traditional food. So traditional food is always balanced, and always dietary diversification is there. Your plate should be colorful, not with artificial colors. It is a food colors. So that will give the. These are all because we cannot measure anything. This is approximate thing. Then the merits and demerits, what are the current diets and what are the current traditional diets will give. So I will not explain all these things. You can read all these things. And in this context, so because childhood obesity is a big problem, and we have also developed one model, intervention model, impact of physical activities and nutrition education in lifestyles among adolescents. We have model adopted in the school children. So we have randomized, these are some studies, because especially children, the TV viewing and participation in outdoor games and participation in household activities. Those who are participating household activities more than 3 hours, the overweight obesity is less. And more than 3 hours TV viewing is also the overweight obesity is significantly high. And participation in outdoor games also more than 6 hours per week. If any child is participating, the chance of getting overweight obesity is less. And based on this, we have an intervention model developed, and these are the messages distributed in the schools. And we have, this is a randomized clinical trial we have done for 10 schools, one control 10 schools in experimental. The message is given, then the science teachers we trained, the curriculum also changed. We have established school canteens, healthy school canteen, and we have also formed a nutrition clubs in the school. So the nutrition clubs, the members should be from the students itself, and we counsel, and this study was done 18 months in the schools. And this is what we have given in the control and what we have given in the experimental things. So the ultimately these two slides are very important, because what is the change over period of time before and in the control group, what happened, it is increased overweight obesity in the control group. And you can see here in the experimental group, it is decreased, and it is changed to obese people reverted to overweight and normal. So this is a very important observation. So this is another model we developed, what is the effectiveness of diet and lifestyle intervention through information, education, communication tools in community for risk reduction and control of hypertension, including hypercholesteremia, diabetes in tribal population. Because the tribal survey prompted the ICMR to develop a task force on hypertension, risk reduction of tribal. So in that context only this project was developed, and these are the things it's given. And this was done in 7 states. One of the state in Andhra Pradesh, that time this is Telangana. So these are the material we have distributed, and I'm not going, and this methodology paper also published here. So the take home message is we have to reduce the fats and sugar, and we have to increase the fruits and vegetables, dietary fiber, physical activity, drinking plenty water for a healthy life. So I acknowledge all these my colleagues, and so I would like to thank all senior colleagues, Dr. Prahlada Rao, late Dr. Prahlada Rao, Dr. Vijayaraghavan, Dr. Hanmanta Rao, Dr. K.V. Sharma, Brahman, for their continuous encouragement and technical support to carry out many research studies in the Division of Community Studies. So I would also like to thank all my colleagues and co-investigators from the division, even other division also there. So I need not read all these names because time is the constraint. So everybody, I am thankful for this contribution of this science. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Sorry, it is long time.
Thank you, sir, for that very comprehensive lecture and also sharing glimpses of your journey. Thank you for that. We will now move on to the next award session, the 12th Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas Memorial Award Lecture. And I'm audible? Yes, sorry. And I request Dr. Kausalya Madam, Joint Secretary, to tell us about the award.
Respected President and all the Executive Committee members and the prestigious awardee receiving the prestigious award, Dr. Kulkarni Madam, Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas Memorial Lecture Award was instituted by the Nutrition Society of India in association with Avinashalingam Education Trust and Avinashalingam University for Women in the year 2009. It is given to everyone, to every year, to an outstanding woman nutrition scientist of Indian origin. And here you can see the photograph of Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas, whom we all admire and call her as Amma. And those youngsters who have not seen, you can see the photograph. About Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas, not only the members from Avinashalingam University call as Amma, but the entire nutrition scientists and home scientists from India and abroad call her lovingly as Amma by her colleagues and students. She made significant contributions to nutrition science, home science, and women development in the country. She was the president of the Nutrition Society of India from 1987 to 1991. She was born in Kallikulam, a village in Tirunelveli district of Tamil Nadu. And Dr. Devadas graduated from Women Christian College, Chennai. She received a PhD degree from Ohio State University, USA in 1950 and her postdoctoral DSc degree from the University of Madras in 1978. She held several celebrated positions such as Chief Home Economist and Joint Director Home Science, Directorate of Extension, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Government of India from 1955 to 1961, and Assistant Director General Nutrition, ICAR, from 1975 to 76, during which Amma introduced home science in all Tamil Nadu, all agricultural universities. That is how we have all home scientists and nutritionists, even alumni from our institute, all over the country in agricultural universities. Amma served as the Regional Vice President International Federation for Women in Agriculture, IFWA, Regional Coordinator for Research, World Alliance for Breastfeeding, and the first Vice President of the World Food Conference convened by the FAO in 1970 in The Hague, Holland. Dr. Devdas' major scientific contributions in the area of home science and community nutrition has resulted in various implementable programs. In the academic year 1991 to 1992, Amma integrated NSS into the undergraduate curriculum of the Avinash Lingam University, giving its credits and an academic status. She was the chief editor of the Indian Journal of Nutrition and Dietetics, started in 1964, and research highlights later, and the Tamil Science Monthly Vignana Chudar. She has authored over 500 research papers and 57 books. She represented India in more than 50 international nutrition and home science conferences in about 40 countries. She received many awards from various national and international organizations for her commendable and priceless service in different fields, including the Tagore Literacy Award during 1991, Padma Shri from the Government of India in 1992, and Dr. B.C. Guha Memorial Award in 1993. She was awarded the honorary degree of Humane Letters from the Oregon State University in 1993 and Ohio State University in 1994, her alma mater. Honorary DSc from Chandrasekhar Azad University of Agriculture and Technology, Kanpur in 1994. Honorary degree of DSc from the University of Ulster, Northern Ireland, 1996. G.D. Birla Award during 1998. And the prestigious Dr. Malcolm S. Adiseshiya Award in 2000. In fact, Dr. Malcolm Adiseshiya started the Economics Masters program in our university by himself. And the prestigious International Union of Nutrition Sciences IUNS Award in 2000. So NSI is now proud to announce that the 12th Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas Memorial Lecture will be delivered by Dr. Bharati Kulkarni, Scientist G and Head, Division of Reproductive Biology, Maternal and Child Health and Nutrition, Indian Council of Medical Research, New Delhi, on the topic Iron Nutrition and Anemia in India, some insights from recent research. Thank you, NSI, for giving me this wonderful opportunity of stating about the award, and we congratulate Dr. Kulkarni for receiving this prestigious award. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for telling us about the award. I now request Dr. Arlappa, Treasurer, NSI, to tell us about the recipient.
Good evening to all.
You can focus on
Recipient.
Good evening to all. I am pleased to introduce the orator for the 12th Dr. Rajamal P. Devadas Memorial Award, Dr. Bharati Kulkarni. Dr. Bharati currently serving as Scientist G and Head of the Division of Reproductive Biology, Maternal and Child Health and Nutrition, ICMR New Delhi. She had started her career in the year 2000 as a scientist at ICMR NIN Hyderabad. Her prime areas of research include maternal and child nutrition, including management of severe acute malnutrition, anemia, developmental origins of health and disease, and body composition. Another core research interest of Dr. Bharati is agriculture in the context of nutrition linkages and community-based intervention to promote dietary diversity. Dr. Bharati has received several honors, starting from the Giant Japan World Bank Graduate Scholarship Award and Global Health Research Scholarship, John Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in 2007. Dr. Bharati has also been conferred with Dr. P.G. Tulpule Oration Award in 2021. Dr. Bharati's contribution to the field of nutritional sciences has phenomenal. Her research contributions and advanced knowledge have positively assisted in policy formulation on important public health nutrition problems. Her work on linking the role of diet and alleviating the double burden of malnutrition is mention worthy, which has particularly highlighted the peculiar body composition in Indians with low muscle mass and adiposity, and showed the link between the childhood stunting and a low muscle mass in adulthood. As a key investigator of long-term cohort study, following up children born during the Hyderabad nutrition trial conducted by NIN during 1987-90, our research has examined the early and later life factors impacting adult lean muscle mass. Another recent study of Dr. Bharati includes re-emphasizing the role of diverse diets and holistic development in reducing anemia. The study showed high anemia despite low iron deficiency in low-income children and highlighted an important issue of underutilization of iron for hemoglobin synthesis. Dr. Bharati has served as a principal investigator of the ICMR Task Force project on anemia, where she has led the development and validation of the point-of-care hemoglobin measurement technique for accurate estimation of anemia prevalence. The currently ongoing cluster RCT is expected to provide evidence on the impact of community-level implementation of screen and treat approach for anemia reduction. Dr. Bharati has bagged several prestigious research fundings for some of our major research projects, which include UCRI's GCRF Action Against Stunting Hub, funded by the UK Research and Innovation. The grant value for this project is 19.7 million British pounds. Dr. Bharati is the principal investigator of a task force on anemia funded by ICMR. She has also received grant from Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, UK Aid and USA. Dr. Bharati has nearly 85 peer-reviewed publications in high-impact international and national journals to her credit. She has contributed to several book chapters and policy documents and has been invited as a speaker, resource person to various international conferences. She has organized several international meetings, including Indo-UK workshop, local convener of Agriculture, Nutrition and Health Academy Week. She has also been involved in the organization of a year-long series of maternal and nutrition technical e-dialogues along with FOGSI, India. And Bharati has participated in several extension activities as well. She has contributed to several articles in Marathi newspapers and English magazines on issues related to nutrition. She has given lectures on maternal nutrition, healthy diets, and bone health in the educational programs organized by UGC Knowledge Network, and has participated as a panelist in many meetings as well as on DD shows. The immense knowledge and the vast experience that Dr. Bharati brings to this platform are humbling and enriching simultaneously.
We'll now move on to the presentation of the award and citation. Dr. Bharati Kulkarni will receive the award from the President NSI, M. Lata ma'am.
Secretary also.
Closer.
Secretary is also joined.
Joined by the Secretary and Treasurer and the Vice President.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This one. This is.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the oration lecture, Iron Nutrition and Anemia in India, some insights from recent research. Please unmute it.
Yeah.
Already shared?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor to receive this prestigious award in memory of Dr. Rajamal Devdas, who was an extraordinary woman nutrition scientist. I have fond memory of the first NSI which I attended in year 2000 after joining National Institute of Nutrition. When I saw how much she was loved by the students, and she was so friendly with everyone. And despite her old age, she was taking time to talk to students, and I could see a very clear and very close connect with the students. And looking at her accomplishments, it's really humbling to give this oration in her memory. At the outset, I would like to thank the committee, NSI, President NSI, Dr. Hemlata, and the committee members for selecting me for this prestigious award. I would try to do justice to this memorial oration. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. So the topic I have selected is based on some of the recent studies on iron nutrition and anemia in India. All of you are aware that iron deficiency has a number of adverse impacts, including impacts on cognitive performance, physical growth of infants and children, immune status, morbidity from infections, physical work capacity. Iron deficiency anemia during pregnancy has even dire consequences of higher perinatal risk for mothers and neonates and higher overall infant mortality. And the trends in the prevalence of anemia across various groups, as per the National Family Health Survey, are not really encouraging. There is some reduction in anemia from the 3rd to 4th survey. But when we come to the 5th survey, which was recently conducted in 2019, the trends have been disturbing with some increase. And you can see that across the age groups, the prevalence of anemia is more than 50%, and even in men, it's showing around 25%. This is more disturbing on the background of the launch of Anemia Mukt Bharat, which was in 2018. And because of the intense efforts to strengthen the iron folate supplementation, we are seeing very good improvement in the consumption of iron folate during the time period between NFHS 4 and 5. We are seeing increase in consumption in pregnant women more than 100 days as well as more than 180 days. So everyone was expecting that we will see lower anemia, but unfortunately, that's not so. So everyone is aware that, I'm sure people are aware that Anemia Mukt Bharat has a target to reduce anemia by 3% per annum in women and children, and it includes 6x6x6 strategy, which means 6 beneficiary groups, 6 interventions, and 6 institutional mechanisms. So the beneficiary groups include children, adolescents, pregnant women, women of reproductive age, school-age children and lactating women. Interventions include iron folate supplementation, deworming, intensified behavior change communication, testing of anemia, and point-of-care treatment for adolescent girls and pregnant women. Iron folate fortified foods in public health programs addressing non-nutritional causes of anemia in endemic pockets is also included, and there are 6 institutional mechanisms. I won't go into details of that. So high prevalence of anemia despite strengthening of anemia control program is a cause of concern, and probably the reasons are IFA supply related problems. We know that there are problems in the supply chains. Compliance to the supplements continues to be poor. We also know that anemia has a multifactorial etiology, but anemia control programs continue to revolve around iron folate supplementation in India as well as other developing countries. Another problem could be population surveys measure hemoglobin as a proxy for iron status, but it is neither sensitive nor specific measure of iron deficiency. Therefore, population estimates of iron deficiency are needed, but iron status indicators involve high cost and are technically challenging. We do not really have large data sets where iron deficiency prevalence is estimated. So the recent comprehensive National Nutrition Survey offers us the opportunity to investigate iron deficiency prevalence in age groups from 1 year to 19 years. And this is the largest micronutrient survey ever conducted in the world, which with representation of all 30 states and union territories. It was led by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with UNICEF and Population Council. It included more than 1 lakh children and adolescents, and biological samples were collected in more than 50,000 children. This slide just gives you the magnitude of the survey. There were more than 2,500 survey personnel, 900 interviewers, data quality assurance monitors were recruited, trainers, coordinators, 360 phlebotomists. It just shows that the survey was very massive one. It included multi-stage stratified population PPS method of sampling design, and it excluded chronic illness, physical deformity, mental illness, cognitive disability, or current illness, fever or infection. This is important in the context of inflammation. The highlight of this survey is quality control, which included rigorous training and standardization. There was daily SMS-based monitoring and alert system for biological samples. There were digital data loggers. Analysis were done in accredited labs, and there were very strong quality assurance programs. So based on this, we analyzed the prevalence of iron deficiency and its socio-demographic patterning in Indian children and adolescents. And we used the data on iron biomarkers, serum ferritin, serum transferrin receptors, and inflammation adjustment was done using C-reactive protein. The data was available in more than 33,000 children and adolescents. And our aim was to analyze iron deficiency prevalence in children and adolescents in nationally representative data. And we also analyzed social patterning of iron deficiency and its relation to hemoglobin. So what we saw that inflammation continues to be a big problem when we measure iron deficiency prevalence. So for the robust measurements, we use 3 different methods of inflammation adjustment, including Brinda corrected. Then we also had a separate ferritin cutoff was used where inflammation was present. We also tried excluding cases with high C-reactive protein. But all the 3 age groups, you can see that anemia prevalence was larger than iron deficiency. So in case of young children, the prevalence was much higher. In case of 5 to 9-year-old children, it was lower, but still the prevalence of anemia was higher than that of iron deficiency. In case of 10 to 19-year-old children, girls had higher prevalence, but again, we see that higher prevalence of anemia than iron deficiency. So this is surprising because we consider iron deficiency anemia as the most severe form of iron deficiency. If iron deficiency is the major cause of anemia, then the iron deficiency should be higher than that of anemia. But we don't see that in this survey. And if we look at comparison with US national surveys, you can see that when the prevalence of iron deficiency was 20%, when the prevalence of anemia was 20%, iron deficiency was around 50%. And when the prevalence of anemia was around 40%, iron deficiency was almost 100%. And based on that, there was a recommendation that when the prevalence of anemia in a population in women of reproductive age and children exceeds 40%, it should be considered as a severe public health problem because the entire population of same and age gender groups would would be iron deficient, and therefore universal iron supplementation should be provided. But what we see in the survey is that throughout the age range, we can see that the prevalence of the red lines are iron deficiency and the blue lines are anemia. So throughout the age groups, we see iron deficiency is lower than anemia prevalence. When we look at the state level differences in prevalence of anemia and iron deficiency, we can see that it's not matching. For example, we can see that a state like Jharkhand is having very low prevalence of iron deficiency, but anemia is high. Some states where the prevalence of anemia is lower, iron deficiency is higher. So this is seen in all the age groups. So there is no real correlation between anemia and iron deficiency. Assuming that the prevalence of iron deficiency would be higher in poorer states, we rank the states in descending order of per capita need state domestic product. So we expected that the iron deficiency would show an increasing pattern, but we really don't see that. We also assess iron deficiency in relation to grades of anemia. You can see that in case of severe anemia, iron deficiency, of course, is very high. In case of moderate anemia, it's around 50 to 60% in young children and adolescents. But in case of mild anemia, it's lower than 20%. Another surprising finding of this survey was that there was a very different socioeconomic gradient in terms of anemia prevalence and iron deficiency prevalence. For example, anemia was highest in the poorest group and lowest in the richest group, which is logical and which is what we would expect. But in case of iron deficiency, what we can see that the prevalence was lowest in the poorest group and highest in the richest group, which is contrary to our expectation. We can see similar pattern in relation to socio-demographic variables, where we can see that when the mother's education was higher, iron deficiency was higher. In case of urban participants, iron deficiency was higher as compared to the rural participant. So we see internal consistency of the findings, but again, the findings are contrary to what we would expect. Similarly, in terms of sanitation, if it was unimproved sanitation, iron deficiency was lower. So the observations are that iron deficiency prevalence is higher in the richer states, urban participants, those from richer wealth quintiles, despite adjustment for relevant confounders. We adjusted for all sorts of relevant confounders, which might influence this relationship. But then we also see external validation of the reports in terms of this meta-analysis, which showed that the lower prevalence of iron deficiency was observed in rural than urban populations. And this is probably, the authors speculated that it's probably due to higher inflammation burden in rural areas. So in case the same analysis showed that when the anemia prevalence was of moderate public health significance in the range of 20 to 40%, iron deficiency, anemia associated with iron deficiency was around 34%. And in case of data sets where from countries where anemia prevalence was of high public health significance, anemia associated with iron deficiency was much lower. So it is possible that the findings which we are seeing could be because we are not able to completely adjust for inflammation, and this is a residual effect of unadjusted inflammation. This diagram shows that when in case of inflammation, which was artificially induced, ferritin increased, CRP also increased, ferritin came down, which was earlier than the ferritin rise, ferritin decrease. So it's possible that we are not able to control for inflammation completely. But there is one lacuna of this survey that we did not have measurement of AGP, which is more an acute marker of inflammation. Studies have, where they had both the data based on AGP and CRP, have shown that the inflammation burden would be higher if based on elevated AGP rather than elevated CRP. So we know that probably there is underestimation of iron deficiency prevalence due to incomplete adjustment for inflammation. But this iron deficiency, which is masked by inflammation, is not amenable to iron intervention. I think that's the main point I want to make here. Although we are underestimating iron deficiency, the kind of underestimation will not be amenable to iron intervention, because in conditions of inflammation, there is rise in hepcidin, which prevents iron absorption, and also release of iron from ferritin, which will be used for hemoglobin synthesis. So this survey, in my opinion, gives us an estimate of iron deficiency, which is amenable to iron intervention. And I think that is an important finding of the study. Another important finding of the study is that when we assess the interaction between serum ferritin and wealth index with hemoglobin as a dependent variable, what we can see that there was a reducing gradient as in the poorest quintile. What this table means that for per unit increase in ferritin, there was only 0.01 unit increase in hemoglobin in the poorest quintile of children, whereas this was 3 times higher in the richest quintile. So the iron is better utilized for hemoglobin synthesis in richest children because they probably have lower inflammation related to infections. They have better diets where other micronutrients are available. There is better protein consumption, which helps utilization of iron for better hemoglobin synthesis. So I think this is one of the important findings of the study. And we feel that lower socioeconomic status participants had inefficient utilization of stored iron for hemoglobin synthesis because of higher inflammation burden, poor diet quality, low intake of high quality protein and other hemopoietic nutrients. And there is an external validation of these findings because in the US, there are multiple studies which have shown that blacks have lower hemoglobin levels despite having higher serum ferritin concentration compared to whites. So this is really a functional iron deficiency, I would call, and even the other authors have called it as a functional iron deficiency, which is despite having available iron stores, which we see in low socioeconomic status children, and this requires a deeper mechanistic inquiry. So the conclusion of this paper is that iron supplementation alone may be of limited value, and improvement in diet diversity is needed to facilitate iron absorption and other hematopoietic nutrients. This slide I'm showing from Dr. Nayar's study, which was way back in 2009. Here you can see that actually the iron intake from the diet and anemia prevalence doesn't really correlate. For example, in case of Gujarat, the iron intakes from the food are larger compared to Kerala, but we see higher anemia prevalence. These are the data from the NNMB 2012 survey, and now we have the EAR metric, and we can see that actually the deficit is very, very small. So this is true even in case of 16 to 17-year-old girls where the requirements are higher. The deficit is 7 milligrams per day. And then despite that, why we are having anemia could be because of our low diet diversity. We can see that the iron contributed by the foods is largely coming from cereal. Again, I'm taking this example from Dr. Nayar's paper. It's largely contributed by cereals, and therefore absorption could be an issue. And I think the NIN's recommendation for improving diet diversity is very important one for increasing the iron absorption and for better utilization of iron for hemoglobin synthesis. Again, this is a very important study by Dr. Nayar's group, which showed that guava consumption increased non-heme iron bioavailability from rice-based meals in adolescence. So just a simple measure such as guava increased the iron consumption more than 2-fold, and I think this is a very important finding. On the other hand, studies which have provided iron through fortified rice showed limited impact on anemia reduction. There are two trials which I would like to quote. One was from Bangalore and one was from NIN. Both the trials showed that there was reduction in iron deficiency, there was reduction in anemia, but there was reduction in anemia even in the control group where they received their usual midday meals, but probably because they received supervised midday meals and deworming, this led to increased hemoglobin. Another evidence from very weak association between iron folate consumption and anemia prevalence comes from NFHS5 data. I would like to acknowledge Dr. William Jo, who has done this analysis and very kindly shared this slide with me. So what he shows that actually the anemia prevalence among pregnant women and the consumption of iron folate tablets during last pregnancy, we don't see any correlation. So in case of women who consume less than 20% and in case of women who consume more than 80% tablets, there is not much difference. When we look at the metadata, one-to-one association, there is some reduction. We can see about 16% reduction in anemia when the consumption is more than 150 tablets. But again, the correlation this is again coming from William Jo. So this is I would say that a very weak association we are seeing, and that's not surprising because the causes of anemia are many folds, including non-nutritional, which include blood loss, hemolysis, deficient erythropoiesis. These are in bold letters, these are amenable to public health interventions. In case of nutritional anemias, other nutrient deficiencies, folate, B12, can cause macrocytic anemia, and then vitamin A deficiency and iron deficiency are related to microcytic anemia. But again, I would say that the important issue here is whether the iron deficiency is absolute or functional. It's very critical, but it's difficult to measure. When we look at the characterization of anemia in the CNNS survey, we can see that this bar is iron deficiency. In case of children 1 to 4 years of age, it was around 40%, but in case of 5 to 9-year-old children and 10 to 19 years age group, a large proportion was anemia of other causes which could not be defined. So another question here is, are we measuring anemia correctly? So there are some, I would like to make 3 points: reliability of estimates, method of hemoglobin estimation, and hemoglobin cutoff for anemia. Yeah, sorry. So number of studies have shown that the DHS surveys, including NFHS survey, measure hemoglobin using capillary blood samples by HemoQ. And when we compare with venous blood sample, there is underestimation of hemoglobin. This study is from Bangladesh, which included more than 3,000 children, and this showed a mean bias of 0.5 grams per deciliter. So 0.5 gram % hemoglobin difference looks like a small difference, but it can create 15 to 20% difference in the anemia prevalence. You can see that with venous blood, anemia prevalence was 45%, and with capillary blood in the same children, it was around 70%. So we can see almost 15 to 20% difference. And they computed the venous adjusted hemoglobin by adding this value, bias value, to the capillary blood sample value. And they have shown that for different countries, the prevalence difference ranged from 15 to 20%. They have also done for NFHS, India NFHS3 data, which showed that the prevalence with this method could be lower by around 15%. And when we look at the CNNS data, in fact, this findings very well tally with CNNS data, because CNNS was conducted in 2015-16, and we can see anemia prevalence in, for example, it was 41% in young children, but in case of NFHS, it was 67%, and in case of girls, it was 59% in CNNS, but here it was 40%. So we see roughly 15 to 20% lower anemia with venous sample based on the previous study, which used venous blood related adjustment based on a Bangladeshi study. And here we have our own survey, which is showing the same. Another important example I would like to give here, and this I would acknowledge contribution of this slide by Dr. Omar Dari. He shared this slide with me. And this shows that in Jordan, they had DHS survey, which measured finger prick blood samples for hemoglobin estimation during 2000 to 2020. And at the same time, they also had our CNNS-like micronutrient surveys in 2002 and also in 2020. You can see that anemia prevalence did not show any reduction over 20 years when DHS sample was used. But in case of micronutrient survey, the anemia prevalence almost reduced by 50% from 20% to 12%. And the anemia prevalence using venous sample was throughout low. So I think there are problems with the estimates of national surveys when they use the capillary blood sample in HemoQ. Therefore, we developed this point of care diagnosis of anemia, and we decided to have a portable auto-analyzer for anemia measurement because we want to do a community level screening. So this small portable analyzer is kept in a van, and what we are doing is we are collecting samples using these lancets in microtainers, and we are collecting a pooled capillary blood sample around 6 to 7 drops. And then it is what we are doing is that when we take multiple drops of capillary blood sample, it is closer to venous blood sample, and we conducted a very careful validation study of our method, which is for point of care hemoglobin measurement in pooled capillary blood sample, and we compared with venous blood sample measured by autoanalyzer as well as direct cyanic hemoglobin. And what we can show that this is a very close association, and you can see that the difference between venous and capillary is only 0.1. You can see the previous study which showed 0.5, and 0.1 and 0.5 is a huge difference it can create in anemia prevalence. So we compared this method with venous blood autoanalyzer, venous blood cyanic hemoglobin also, and both reference methods, the difference was only 0.1, but still the difference in the anemia prevalence was around 4 to 7%. So you can imagine even a small difference in the hemoglobin concentration can lead to misclassification of anemia. So this paper has been published, and another advantage of this method of portable autoanalyzer is that we can directly transmit the values to the server without any manual error. So we have developed an integrated software which pulls the values from autoanalyzer. We use barcode printing. We can pull the values from the autoanalyzer, which gets integrated with our data collection using tablets, where we add the values of age, sex, and other demographic parameters. And we have developed an algorithm to classify the individuals in different grades of anemia, because Anemia Mukt Bharat strategy recommends giving the iron folate dosages based on the anemia grades, and we have developed customized messages for the ASHA workers to help this distribution of iron folate. So this is about the method of hemoglobin estimation. The third point about anemia estimation is about hemoglobin cutoffs, because we are using WHO cutoffs for identifying anemia, which were first established in 1968 with data from 5 studies, which were predominantly done in white populations in Europe and North America. And these were mainly statistical cutoffs rather than thresholds linked to meaningful health outcomes. So currently WHO is in the process of reviewing the use and interpretation of hemoglobin thresholds. They have a very elaborate evidence-informed guideline development procedure, which started almost 3 to 4 years ago, but they are going to take another year to come up with the revised guidelines. But there are large studies from different parts of the world which have shown that hemoglobin cutoff levels to define anemia probably need evaluation. For example, this study published in JAMA, which included almost 80,000 hemoglobin observations from population-based surveys, And this study showed that hemoglobin cutoffs for defining anemia were higher than the 5th percentile of nearly all countries except in the US. So I think this issue is quite important. Another paper I would like to quote from the Intergrowth study, which developed the fetal growth hormone standards. They had samples of pregnant women from 8 geographic areas, including Brazil, China, India, Italy, Kenya, Oman, UK, and USA. And they had a sample of 3,500 uncomplicated pregnancies in women receiving optimal antenatal care, and they have generated normative centiles for gestational age-specific hemoglobin distribution. This is a very important issue because we are using currently WHO criteria, which are same 11 grams per deciliter of hemoglobin throughout pregnancy. But we know that there is plasma volume expansion and hemodilution, which occurs mainly in the second trimester. And therefore, there is a sort of recommendation that gestational age-specific cutoffs are needed during pregnancy. So probably the new WHO cutoffs will also consider that. But this study showed that the third centile values range from 10.2 at 14 weeks to 9.4 during 32 to 35 weeks. And these were the women who received optimal antenatal care. CDC has a cutoff which is somewhat different than the WHO. So CDC uses a cutoff of 11 grams per deciliter in the first and third trimester, but it is slightly lower, 10.5 grams per deciliter in the second trimester. So this is a cohort study from Brazil, which compared the anemia prevalence using the WHO as well as CDC cutoffs. So using the WHO cutoff, it was 23%, and using the CDC cutoff, the anemia prevalence was 11%. And this study showed that the greater risk of small for gestational age was seen only with the CDC cutoff. So this study concluded that anemia during pregnancy remains an important public health issue, but its magnitude may be overestimated by overly sensitive assessment criteria. So I think it's really important for us to wait for the WHO recommendation, because this process is going to consider the evidence in a very, very elaborate manner and comprehensive manner. So I would like to summarize here that we definitely need more research for better evaluation of anemia prevalence in surveys using valid methods of hemoglobin estimation. We should have appropriate sample sizes. The cutoffs also should be linked to meaningful health outcomes rather than statistical cutoffs. This is a very difficult proposition, but that's ideal one. CNNS data shows that iron deficiency prevalence was a public health problem in preschool children and adolescent girls. It was of moderate proportions because it was around 30%. And in case of children and adolescents, it was even lower. The prevalence of iron deficiency in children and adolescents was observed to be lower than the prevalence of anemia, and this requires further exploration. There may be underestimation of iron deficiency prevalence because of incomplete adjustment for inflammation, but this subset, which is not identified as iron deficiency because of inflammation, is not likely to be amenable to iron interventions, because in these conditions, hepcidin would be increased and iron supplementation may not be helpful. The nutrition surveys have shown weak association between dietary iron intake and anemia. And I believe, and Dr. Nair has also said it repeatedly, that poor bioavailability of dietary iron seems to be a larger problem. Impaired iron utilization for hemoglobin synthesis in poor income group children remains a problem, and therefore intended benefits on anemia will not accrue if iron intake is increased without addressing the multiple environmental constraints, including poor diet diversity, infections, and wash practices. I would like to acknowledge various people for our work, including previous directors and the current director of National Institute of Nutrition, my 9 colleagues working on the issue of anemia, Dr. Raghu, Ravi, Tina, Santosh, Dr. Bhanu Prakash, Dr. Viklar, my PhD students, Then anemia task force study, I would make a special mention of our technical advisory group chairperson, late Professor Bhan, who has encouraged us to develop a portable method for community screening for anemia, and the current chair, Dr. H.P. Sachdev, for his constant support. Our other tag members, including Dr. Prema Ramchandran, Dr. Nair, Dr. Seela Dev from Ministry, Dr. R.M. Pandey, they have been a constant support for our study. Dr. Anju Sinha from ICMR, then our project research staff have been a great helping hand, and they have been doing the work very diligently in our cluster randomized trial. The CNNS data analysis could not have been possible without constant mentoring by Dr. Anurag Urpal and HP Sachdev. And last but not the least, I would acknowledge my family for being a constant support for all the activities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti, for your very informative and insightful presentation. We will now move on to the next award, the 8th Dr. B.K. Anand Memorial Award. And to talk about the award, I invite Dr. Kumud Khanna, former Director of Indian Home Economics, Delhi University. Madam, over to you.
Good evening to all the members. I thank the MSI President and the executive members to give me this opportunity to introduce the Dr. B.K. Anand Award. This award was instituted by the Nutrition Society of India in association with Dr. B.K. Anand Benevolent Trust, New Delhi, in the year 2014, in memory of Professor Balkrishan Anand, who is an internationally renowned physiologist. Yes, about Dr. B.K. Anand. He graduated in medicine from King Edward Medical College, Lahore in 1940 and went on to do MD in 3 subjects, medicine, pathology, and physiology. Then later he joined Lady Hardinge Medical College as a professor of physiology at an early age of 32 years in 1949. Also, he was the first Rockefeller Foundation Fellow and went to Yale University in 1950. There he discovered the existence of neural substrate that is responsible for regulating the food intake that is now known as the feeding center. In 1952, he returned to India and joined the Lady Hardinge Medical College again as professor and head department of physiology. In 1956, when AIIMS started, he joined it as his first professor in the department of physiology and pioneered the restructuring of MBBS course to 3 phases of 3 semesters, followed by a year of internship. This curriculum was quickly followed throughout the country. As a member of the core team, he laid down the curriculum for postgraduate training in AIIMS that was soon accepted by the Medical Council of India. His research was on the neurobiology of feeding and satiety. The neurophysiology research unit started by him at AIIMS continues to flourish even today. In 1955, Dr. Anand was instrumental in founding the Association of Physiologists and Pharmacologists of India. In 1957, he also started the Indian Journal of Physiology and Pharmacology, which is the best medical journals from India. In 1974, he worked for the WHO and rendered advice on policy matters relating to education, nursing, and paramedical manpower in the member countries in Southeast Asia. He joined the Family Planning Foundation after retirement from WHO in 1977 as its biomedical doctor and held this position till his retirement in 1982. After retiring in 1982, he established a postgraduate medical institute in Srinagar and served as the director of Sher-e-Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences, Srinagar. Throughout his career, he guided many students, practitioners, researchers, and faculty, authored numerous research publications. Dr. Anand won numerous national and international awards and accolades. Most significant among them are the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize for Science and Technology in Medical Sciences in 63, Padma Shri in Medicine in 1969 from the Government of India. NSI is happy to announce that the 8th Dr. B.K. Anand Memorial Award is presented to Dr. B. Dinesh Kumar, former scientist G and head Drug Toxicology Division, ICMR NIN, Hyderabad. And I congratulate Dr. Dinesh Kumar on getting this award, this 8th B.K. Anand Memorial Award. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I will now briefly introduce Dr. Dinesh Kumar.
Focus on the.
Very briefly, sir. Former director grade scientist from ICMR NIN. With his background in pharmacology, he has contributed to breaking new grounds in the area of nutritional pharmacology and toxicology. He established the state-of-the-art Center for Advanced Research for Preclinical Toxicology, including the safety of innovative products. He successfully implemented public-private partnership and strengthened the regulatory guidelines in India. Dr. Dinesh Kumar has coordinated several projects with national agencies such as DBT, CSIR, ICMR, DST, Ayush, and with international agencies including International Atomic Energy Agency, World Health Organization, World Bank, Indo-US collaborative between NIH and ICMR, to name a few. He has developed several models for non-clinical efficacy evaluation of various products and has done exclusive research work in the area of nutrition-pollution interaction and generated data for the assessment of lead toxicity in a target population. He has contributed to the areas of social drug epidemiology and developed the innovative intervention program for promotion of rational drug use. Dr. Dinesh is the recipient of Norman Borlaug Fellow, USDA, Counselor, International Union of Basic and Clinical Pharmacology, WHO Fellow in Action Program on Promotion of Rational Drug Use. He was nominated by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to attend the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development meeting on biosafety and novel food and feed safety. He is technical expert to various organizations like FSSAI, DCGI, Ayush, and many other organizations for product review and development of guidelines. Dr. Dinesh Kumar is Fellow of National Academy of Medical Sciences, Fellow of the Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences, Fellow of Telangana Academy of Sciences, and Fellow of the Indian Pharmacological Society. He was awarded the Young Scientist Award from Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences, Nutrition Society of India, and the Indian Pharmacological Society. He has more than 80 regulatory reports and 45 indigenously developed products to his credit, and has published 75 scientific articles and has authored numerous book chapters and popular articles. He has also contributed to IEC by making educational films to promote rational use of medicine and for prevention of lead toxicity. He has guided 17 doctoral students. Lastly, he has deftly organized several national and international conferences and brainstorming sessions. Let's put our hands together for Dr. B. Dr. Anand Memorial Award. Congratulations, sir. We'll now receive the award from the President NSI, along with the Vice President.
Congratulations, sir.
Along with Secretary.
And other EC members.
Sir,
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. Now request sir to make a few remarks. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you to the members of NSI
It's a great honor to receive a memorial of Professor Bal Kishan Anand Award, who was a noted Indian physiologist and a pharmacologist. I happened to meet him during my post-graduation time in Shere Kashmir with Professor R.K. Raina. Getting an award to a pharmacologist in the nutritional sciences is a rare honor. And more so in this present context, I am mentioning because Padma Shri Professor Anandji was a noted pharmacologist and a physiologist in the country. And we know very well that when Indian Pharmacological Society formed, he is one of the founders with Professor Dr. Dhawan and other people. That is how we know the contributions of Professor B.K. Anand. Then I must confess here that it is all because of the dynamic leadership of Dr. Hemlata, President NSI, Director NIN, and Madam Dr. Kumud Khannaji, Chair of the Trust, to whom I know very well for a long time, for giving this opportunity. And I also thank the EC for the great award which you have given. But I may like to recall my award phase in the institute is started because of the Dr. Kamala Krishna Swami. If Madam is here, I may like to recall that she should remember that she has instructed me to read one book called as a Organ-Directed Toxicity in 1980s, late 1980s. Then after knowing that I am a pharmacologist and I do only experimental animal work, but she has still insisted me to read the early biomarkers, for which I have just read the book. Then I was in a dilemma to start the work, but I must say that I could able to standardize the biomarkers for hematology, nephrotoxicity, and neurotoxicology. And the credit goes to my institute, ICMR NIN, which has a great integrated support, and I could do standardization of the same. The same work was presented in 1990, on which Sylvia was mentioning about the Young Scientist Award. The title of the paper was Lead Toxicity and Nutrition. And it was surprising that how come nutrition and pollution is related to nutrition, that too in the early 90s. And it was surprising that I got the Young Scientist Award from the Nutrition Society of India, which I still cherish and I kept it in my frame. The same thing which I may like to mention you again, that one of our former director, late Dr. B.S. Narsingh Rao, he has mentioned the word called as a thiamine can be used as a good chelator for preventing the lead toxicity. I really appreciate, and that has made me to take a new innovative work. Then I went to IIC Bangalore, run the crystallography and all those things. I may also like to tell you that I have contributed or published many papers in spite of the colonial language, which is consisting in spite of the freedom. But I may like to recall here my great friend, Dr. Kalyan, Mr. Kalyan Sundaram, who I used to call him as a Macaulay of NIN, who made my job very easy. Then you will be happy to note that the pollution-nutrition interaction has become a very hot topic of the current this thing, and it has given a challenges in the nutrition science for taking a new areas of research. And this is where I may like to see the vision of Dr. Kamala Krishna Swami during 1985 to make me to this stage. Then I may appreciate Dr. Bamji, who has designated me as a nutritional pharmacologist. I went and asked her to give a testimonial for some purpose. Then she has given me a testimonial mentioning nutritional pharmacology. Then I asked, she very clearly mentioned it is a rare work which you are doing safety and efficacy of a nutritional preparations. Madam, you are correct, madam. That is how the preclinical toxicology is established. I must recall my support for which I have received from Dr. Piyush Tripale and Dr. Ramesh Bhatt, who have encouraged throughout my career for my professional leads and achievements. I place on records the name of Dr. late Sri Gopalan, with whom my association was limited, but my intimacy was very close. And he became a great ideal of dynamic leadership. Whenever I used to be in the executive committee, the way in which he used to advocate NSI, which I can never forget. and really great fatherly figure to the country and to our NSI also. Apart from this, Dr. Shashikaran, who is a pathopharmacologist, who taught me pathopharmacology as a teacher, collaborator, we together served in NSI for more than 20 years, only by the mutual discussions and a faith. Finally, I may like to dedicate this award to my wife, Kalpana, children Neha and Divya, for continuous support and ignoring my careless attention toward the family. Wish long life to NSI. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Aggressive touch.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Only slides 11, full narration.
Flavor వచ్చింది సార్ పాత NSA flavor వచ్చింది.
We've
Now, who will deliver the vote of thanks?
Myself, madam. Myself. Srishwan is here, madam.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Dr. Rajashree Swan, EC member, will deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, madam. It is good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure to present the vote of thanks for this August audience. This year, we have very important topics related to the current problems faced by our country that includes triple burden of malnutrition and anemia. As rightly pointed out by our senior member, Dr. A.N. Radha, NSI has always modeled its activities around NIN, whose pioneering scientists have reshaped its value among nutrition researchers in India. This year, I am particularly happy to see the contribution of NIN scientists in this Oration Awards, whose work has been tireless year after year. I congratulate the recipient of Dr. Srikantaya Award, our humble Dr. Lakshmaya sir. When Dr. Lakshmaya sir said that he has never expected to get an award, it is only his humility. I would like to remind him that no nutrition scientist in India has worked in more projects and traveled more places than Dr. Lakshmaya as the public health nutrition expert of a country. Sir, you truly deserve the award, and it is also his last year of service at NIN, and this award is timely deserved for all the hard work you are putting over the years. His work in childhood obesity is particularly noteworthy. Sir has spoken about triple burden, but I would like to add fourth burden, the amount of activities he has carried out for NIN and NSI, the administrative activities, despite his busy schedule. Sir, you are the hero of the masses and always has his heart in the right place. If I may add his greatest contribution to nutrition science in India, it is his work on the programs, the national programs, who has been instrumental in designing these programs, and requests that no new programs are needed, and just these programs are sufficient enough if we can one can ensure coverage, continuity, intensity, and quality. Sir, I once again congratulate you for deserving this award. Next, I congratulate Dr. Bharati Kulkarni for the Rajmal Devdas Award. Dr. Bharati Kulkarni is one of the finest researchers in the area of maternal and child health, not just in India, but across the globe. Her career spanning more than 3 decades has been without any blemish and continues to do so. Her work on SAM management is unmatched and is only overshadowed by the greatest nutrition scientist of India, Dr. C. Gopalan. Her work has shown that anemia is not just an important marker of nutrition iron deficiency, but also other deficiencies, and therefore provides a good marker for general nutrition of population. Her work that has said that functional outcomes are also important than statistical outcomes, and is an important area of work for young researchers like me. Finally, I congratulate Dr. Dinesh who is the recipient of this year's VK Anand Award, who he calls me fondly as Szechuan, a noodle which I have never eaten, and is a humble servant of NSI. His work on toxicology studies have been many tussles with the organizations, but for his great interpersonal management, these have been resolved very smoothly over the years. I finally thank all my fellow committee members for making and the secretarial staff, the convener of various committees at NIN, to ensure the smooth conduct of today's Oration Awards. With this, I conclude my vote of thanks.
And with the permission of the President, Dr. Hemlata ma'am, we now close the meeting.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
evening and have a restful
Good evening.
weekend.
Good evening.
Thank you all. Wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.